Hi everyone! Today I'm going to show you how I made a bodice pattern that fits me perfectly and that I can use to make pretty much any other pattern that I want. I'm not going to be focusing so much on the drafting itself, but more on how I fit the block after I've drafted it. I used the Pattern Making for Fashion Design textbook by Helen Joseph Armstrong. I do think that it's a great resource for learning pattern making, but there are also many other great methods in textbooks or free tutorials that people post on YouTube or other places. And I've linked a YouTube video that I think is good in the description if you don't want to buy a textbook. Okay, so I got my measurements and now it's time to actually start drafting. Most people who make patterns as a hobby, and even some professionals, draft using a pencil and paper. That used to be what I did, however, I have recently started using Seamly 2D, which is a free pattern making software. If you are interested in learning how to draft in Seamly, I've linked the tutorial that I learned from below. So I'm not going to go through step by step all the instructions in the textbook in terms of how to actually draft the bodice block, because that would be probably a little bit tedious for people. But basically how it works is whether you're using Seamly or pencil and paper, you follow the instructions word for word. So for starters here in the Helen Joseph Armstrong book, it says, all right, draw a line from A to B with your full length measurement. So I'm going to do that. Then square out from point A at whatever length, name that point C. And you do that until you get something that looks somewhat like this. Again, I have tutorials below if you don't want to buy a pattern making textbook, so check those out. Alright, so I followed the instructions in the Helen Joseph Armstrong book digitally in Seamly 2D. This is what my front bodice looks like. It has a waist dart, and then here's my back bodice, which has a waist dart and a shoulder dart. For those who don't know, darts are how you shape a 2D piece of fabric around your 3D body. If it weren't for darts, we'd all be wearing shapeless sacks or stretchy tubes. Alright, so here is the first muslin mock-up of my bodice block. It's honestly not bad. There are a couple little problems, but they won't be the end of the world to fix. As you can see, there are these lines of fabric where it kind of wants to make a dart. It fits nicely in the bust, but it's a little too roomy at the neck and shoulder area. There are a few ways I could deal with this, but to be honest, I think I will actually just make a dart. I tend to use a lot of shoulder princess seams in my designs anyway, which for those who don't know, that means instead of having darts, you basically have a seam that runs from your shoulder all the way down to your waist. So I will just put a shoulder dart in there, no problem. That will also take care of another problem. So clearly I did not measure my shoulder length correctly. It's like a little bit too long and it's making kind of a cap sleeve situation, which is not what you want for a basic bodice block. So when we look at the armhole, it's making a point at the top, which it shouldn't. It should be a nice round shape. Generally, you want to line up the pattern to make sure it's not doing that before you cut it out. So I will have to correct that in Seamly. Another problem with the armhole is that it is really right up inside my armpit, which I guess for a sleeveless garment, that's okay. But obviously if I were to add a sleeve, I'd probably want that to be lower. So I'm going to drop that, I think probably by an entire inch. I'm also going to drop the bust point down by about ½ an inch because it is coming quite close to the apex, which you do not want because then you get pointy boobs. And I may also move the dart over, I'd say about 3/8 of an inch because it's getting a bit close to the side of my body here. Also, the side seam is not where it should be. It's a little bit too far back, so I'm going to have to add some room to the back side seam and subtract that corresponding amount from the front side seam. So let's move to the back. So as you can see, there is a bit of excess fabric in certain places at the back. So first of all, it's clearly too long. It's going down past my natural waist. And this is why you don't take your own measurements. So I will have to remove some length from that, which won't be too difficult. There's kind of two ways of doing that. The way I ended up doing was just like raising the back hemline, nice and easy. However, another way you can do it, and this is probably actually what I should have done, is if you see excess fabric because something is too long, it's like pooling, just pinch it where it is pooling, pin it there so that you can see, measure how much it's pooling, and then in your paper pattern, just like draw out that, like the excess basically, just like draw lines where that excess is, and then cut it there and retape the pattern so that you basically just cut that excess right out of the pattern. I also have some excess up at the back neck here. I could make a back neck dart, although I don't really like doing that because I rarely ever make garments with a back neck dart. It's just not very common to have one of those. So I think what I will do is take that excess in through the shoulder dart, and I will show you how to do that in a bit. Okay, so in terms of how I'm going to deal with the issue of excess fabric in the back and the front neck, I am going to do what's called the slash and spread method for putting that excess into a dart. So first of all, what I did was to unsew the back bodice, take out the shoulder dart, draw in the lines for the shoulder dart, and then draw another dart in the neck area that's the approximate width of the excess that I need to take out. Most people would do this on their paper pattern, but I felt like just doing it right on the block. So now that I've drawn those lines, they go all the way to the waist dart. I will cut through, that's why it's called slash and spread. So I will cut through those lines on both sides, making sure to leave them a little bit attached at the bottom. We don't want it to completely, like this triangle shape, to completely detach from the pattern, but go really as close as you can until that point. So now comes the spread part of the slash and spread. So for the place in the back neck with the excess that I don't want to have there, I will line up the top of those two dart legs together. I don't know why I drew that dart so short. I could have just drawn it all the way to the point, but whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's kind of the same thing at the end of the day. So I just line up those two dart legs together so that that dart is completely closed and there is some overlap there. And then consequently, the other dart at the shoulder becomes a lot bigger. All right, so now I'm measuring the width of that new dart. So it is 1 inch and 1/8. All right, so now we have a much wider dart than before and the excess in the back neck is gone. So if you were doing this on a paper pattern, I'm gonna just make the changes in Seamly, but if you were doing it with a paper pattern, what you would do is you'd do the slash and spread, then you'd put some more pattern paper underneath that dart, because now it's like a gaping hole. So you'd put it under so that there's no hole, and then you would retrace it. I'm also gonna have to retrace that back neck curve because putting that dart in there has made that a little wonky. All right, so I made those changes to the back pattern. I've added a dart in the front pattern. Let's see how it goes. Okay, so it is a lot better than before, but there is still a lot of excess in that front neck area. Geez, I must have mismeasured myself, or I guess I just have a really like concave upper chest area. So I think I'm just gonna put some darts in there for right now. Oh my god, yay, I am so happy. Okay, so I put some darts in that front bodice piece and wow, it fits like perfectly now. Hallelujah. The only thing that is kind of dodgy is since I put some darts in like the front neck area, it kind of pulled the whole shoulder seam. So now the shoulder tip is not quite where it's supposed to be, and where the shoulder meets the neck is also a little bit too high. So I'm going to have to adjust that curve in Seamly. That won't be difficult. Yay, I'm so happy. The front is literally perfect. The back, it looks like there might be still some excess in places. I may have to get a friend to help me with that because I can't see my own back. But I think it's close enough for right now that I could probably start using it. Also, if there are really experienced pattern makers here who come into my comments and are like, well, actually it doesn't fit perfectly, there's like this, and this. I do not even want to hear it for one single second. Do not even think about it. I am so happy right now. I love how it fits in the front. Also, you may have noticed that it doesn't quite fit like a second skin in the waist. It's quite roomy. I do that on purpose. I get that it might not be like perfect fit, but I like to have a lot of ease in the waist. Like, what if I'm huffing and puffing and taking huge big breaths, diaphragm, going like this? That ease is gone when you do that. So I like to keep my waist very, very, very roomy. All right, so that's how I made a bodice block that fits me perfectly or almost perfectly, and that I can now use to make pretty much any design that I want with it. I may do another video at some point about a pants block or a skirt block if that's of interest to anybody. So please subscribe so you don't miss those. Like this video if you learned something. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.